I'm going to talk about diversity, and I'm going to be specifically referring to diversity, ethnic, and other similar types, gender, ethnic diversity. I guess it's going to be ethnic diversity in the United States. And the stuff that I am going to say is things that I learned in my life that I guess you could prove factually. I'm going to say that these things are facts, but they are observations. But if you observe it, you're going to come to the same conclusion. The United States is the most ethnically diverse country in the world. I have been to 20 or 30 different countries. Colombia, Peru, all over the Caribbean, Belize, Guatemala, Mexico, Canada, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Hong Kong, Philippines, Indonesia, UK, Bonaire. Did I say Jamaica? Costa Rica. I've probably been to other countries. It's hard to remember because it's been so many places. I've been to like 200 or 300 different cities. My experience is that most cities or countries are homogenous. When you go to Colombia, I've been to every major city in Colombia, like 6 or 7 different cities. You can look at a person and say what city they're from. A person from Bogota looks like they're from Bogota, and a person from Barranquilla looks like they're from Barranquilla. A person from Cartagena looks like they're from Cartagena, etc. If you go to Peru, everybody looks Peruvian. If you go to Jamaica, everyone looks Jamaican. If you go to Guatemala, they all look Guatemalan. I went to Spain. Everybody looked the same. I'm going to be honest, I primarily look at the women. And I noticed that there were 2 different facial features that were common. And when I went there, I was like, oh my God, I know women in Colombia that look Spanish. And Colombia has Spanish heritage. So I was like, wow, those people that I knew that looked, that, you know, I didn't know that they look Spanish. Now I know I'm seeing Spanish people. This is what they look like. They have a Spanish heritage. They've got Spanish names and they speak Spanish. They must have Spanish heritage. They look like the people that I saw in Spain. And I'm Italian. When I went to Italy, everybody looked Italian. I'm in the Philippines. They all look Filipino. I went to China. I was in Shanghai. I went to Hong Kong. Everybody is homogenous throughout the world except the United States. But guess what? People will tell you there's not enough diversity in the United States. There is enough diversity in the United States. I absolutely guarantee you there is enough diversity in the United States. To say that there's not enough diversity in the United States in terms of ethnicity is ignorance. The United States is not only the most diverse country in the world, but it is so far ahead of every other country that discussing diversity in other countries is just a non-issue. Other countries are not diverse. Japan has a reputation for being a non-diverse ethnic country where they are racist and they don't accept foreigners. People say if you go there, you will be treated like a foreigner, and they don't accept it. That's what people say. And I could care less if it's true or not. I don't think that they're doing anything harmful to foreigners, but that's experiences that I've heard about people that have gone to Japan. Unfortunately, there's 2 types of diversity. One is what you look like, and the other is what your skills are. And when I grew up, diversity was about your skills and your talent. And people said we want diverse people, you know, one person that has a skill. But over the years that changed and it became what you look like. I'm a business owner, and I guarantee you what you look like, diversity in television, movies, etc., is a complete waste of time. It's a complete failure. It's bad for business. It's bad for the country. It's bad for universities. The list goes on and on and on in how it's bad. The only thing it's good for is for people's egos who believe that somehow their status is elevated because a person of their ethnic group is represented somewhere on television. And it's silly to throw away everything that our country has built for someone's shallow ego. Universities had a policy of bringing in people with diverse backgrounds. I did very well. I scored 1290 on my SATs. My parents did not speak English, so I did poorly on the English. And it was out of 1600, I did 1290 out of 1600. I scored a 730 on the math and like a 540 on the verbal. And I was like, I can't believe how unprepared I was for the verbal section. And I knew people who told me that they got 200 on their SATs, a full scholarship to a private school, and these people were Hispanic, and they said, well, because our father doesn't work, we're Hispanic, our father's here illegally, you know, they said like that, they got full scholarship, 200 on their SATs. There were two sisters, I think they were twins, they were definitely sisters, and they both said that they got 200 on their SATs. And I think that's the minimum score you get by putting your name on the SATs. And they spoke English. When a school accepts people because of their ethnic diversity, they are turning away people who have skills and talent. And those people who have skills and talent bring something to the school because the school earns money. They earn grants from the government or for private businesses when their students do research projects or invent things or, you know, et cetera. That's one of the ways that schools get a lot of money and or through athletes by winning athletic games, saying, hey, instead of having the best athlete, let's get the one who is an ethnic group that no one's ever heard of, is bad for your athletic team. You will not succeed. I had a business where I hired people that I should not have hired, and I hired them for the wrong reasons. I didn't take their skills enough into consideration when I hired them. It was a mistake. Don't do it. Diversity doesn't need to be fixed in the United States. Anyone who believes it does is completely wrong. You can call me white all you want. I am 100% Italian. I am a first-generation American. I have nothing in common with white Americans. I do not like white Americans. They are shallow. They're vain. They're obsessed with money and sex and sports and alcohol. They're lazy. They're apathetic. My generation was the apathetic generation when nobody cared about anything. They're not entrepreneurial. Many of them are not entrepreneurial. I'm not strong friends. All of my friends were foreigners from foreign countries. First-generation Americans, their parents did not speak English. That was the makeup of my friends. And I was the white one. They were all people of different skin colors. My parents happened to emigrate to the United States from their country. I thought, you know, we were taught that diversity was good. In fact, I think we had a textbook in elementary school called Diversity. And I remember there was one called Serendipity, and I don't remember the other ones. But I think there was one called Diversity. We were taught about diversity. The modern values of diversity are not going to work. I'm going to use television as an example. I watch TV shows and movies because I like the actor that is in the show or the movie. And some of them are diverse, and some are not. Unfortunately, I watch stand-up comedy. There is a disproportionate amount of people who are diverse, who are not white males, doing stand-up comedy on YouTube. However, most stand-up comics are white males, but not on YouTube. If you look at late-night shows, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, it's filled with all sorts of diverse comedians. But guess what? They're not funny. And it gets to the point where I skip all the diverse comedians. If it's a woman, I'm probably going to skip her, unless she really looks white. And I skip the black comedians usually. All the other weird-looking ones, skip them. The ones that you don't know where they're from, skip them because they're just not funny. The gay ones are not funny. They get up there and they use it as a platform for coming out. The first thing they say is, I'm gay. Stop. Because they're just going to talk about how they're gay and how they told their parents they were gay, how they told their friends they were gay, and it's not funny. If it's a woman and she's a lesbian, she's going to say she has a vagina, and then it's not funny. And a lot of the female comedians say, that she has sex and she talks about her boyfriends and about how she teases her boyfriend or something like that. And I really don't think it's that funny. Maybe some people do. But that doesn't mean that I don't like diversity in a comedian. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of zeros out there that are getting too much attention, more than they deserve, and the people who should be on, who are actually funny, are not getting that attention. So I do actually watch a lot of the diverse ones, but they get cut off. If they don't say something funny real fast, I cut them off. And you have to recognize people. Like, for example, I didn't like Kevin Hart at first because I saw him doing interviews. When I saw him doing interviews, I'm thinking, like, this guy's not funny. And I didn't think Jim Gaffigan was funny when I saw him doing interviews. But when I watched the stand-up, I said, okay, Kevin Hart's not that bad. He's got some good comedy in there. You just got to wait it out. And Jim Gaffigan, right from the beginning, he's good. And I postponed it because I didn't know any better. So diversity is not the answer to America's problems. There is no diversity problem. Don't give people jobs because of a diversity. It's absolute nonsense. I laugh when liberal groups or Democrats say, oh, look at our photo at all of our the people that work for this senator, and look at how diverse they are. And they always put the Muslim girl with the headscarf. And my aunts and my grandmother wore headscarves, so no anti-headscarf stuff. Okay? So they wear the headscarves and they put them in the front of every picture. They're never in the back. They're in the front showing off their clothing. You know what? I sit there and I think, you got your job because of your ethnicity. You didn't get your job because you were qualified. And somebody who was qualified didn't get the job. And that's sad. It hurts business. It keeps people who are qualified unemployed. People reproduce people who are unintelligent and unqualified because they earn money that they shouldn't be earning. I don't know. But I learned a lesson in many ways. Diversity is not the answer. When I have the story of when I was in 6th grade, I was a captain of a 2nd grade hockey team. And I give you the fast explanation. There was one girl on the team. I gave her privileged placement in the game, give her the best positions. She sucked at hockey, and the people that were better than her didn't get to play those positions, and it was wrong. And I learned in 6th grade, I said, I'm never going to give someone privilege again because it's a woman or for any other reason. It's wrong. People have to earn it. With my business, I said I hired people that weren't qualified, and that's because I was like, I'm going to give this person a chance. And really, realistically, I did not really have alternatives. I just knew that they weren't fully qualified. They didn't do a good job, had to fire them. That's what happens. You hire people that can't do it. They're not going to do a good job. You got to fire them. And I hired people based on a recommendation of someone else, and those people sucked. And it's because the other person said that they were good. Well, guess what? It wasn't my evaluation of whether that person was good. And these people were actually lying. I did not speak Spanish. I spoke English, and I was hiring people that spoke Spanish. And they may have lied to me about whether they understood English. And I would say, you know, have you ever managed people? So, oh, she was the head secretary of 3 secretaries. Yeah, I don't think so. She had no secretary skills whatsoever. She was not a head secretary of anything. She was his fling after work, is what she was. When I left the office, they were the only 2 left because she had to do extra work, and it was never the work that I gave her to do. She never did it, and I know that there was no extra work for her to do, and she was the fling, and he had flings with lots of girls. The funniest one was we were interviewing a bunch of women because we would do like 10 at a time just to make it easier, and it was mixed. It was women and men, and he said, I think I had, he said, oh, that girl. He recognized her from a one-night stand. So that was an interesting story. So I lived in non-diverse countries, Peru, Colombia, Philippines, for extended periods of time, 6 months, a year, 8 years in Colombia. There's nothing about living there where I sit there and say, these people need to be more diverse. I've never said that in any country that I've ever visited. I've never said these people have a diversity problem. They do have beliefs. I'm going to give you an example. Black people are not respected anywhere that I've ever been. I have never heard anyone say, we love black people. Didn't hear it in Colombia. Didn't hear it in Peru. there's no black people in the Philippines. They were not rejected, but they didn't have the good jobs, and people did say bad things about them, and people did not want to date them, for example. Like, I saw a list. I said, why are all these names crossed off for this particular guy? And she said, well, he's black. There was a list of women he wanted to meet through a dating service, and she crossed off like 90% of them because they were not interested. But all the white guys did get the dates that they requested. Just so you know, I have one friend since I was younger from college. He's black. So don't tell me that I hate black people. And the person who I hired to represent my company, to be the spokesperson for my company on television, is black. So don't tell me that I hate black people. And I live in a Hispanic country for 8 years. Don't tell me that I hate Hispanic people. And I can speak Spanish. Came from an immigrant family. All of my friends were immigrants. So, you know, I'm going to guarantee you ethnic diversity, complete waste of time. Does not help anyone except for some people with weak egos. And they're hurting everybody. It's going to end up hurting everybody because people need to be hired for their qualifications. When businesses don't do that, they are less competitive amongst other businesses and internationally. It does not have, you know, that is the proof. We have a problem where we are not at our potential because we have, it's fascism to force a business to hire someone that they don't want to hire. That's fascism. That's a definition of fascism. Look it up in the dictionary. Forcing someone to do something that they don't want to do, fascism. So don't do it. Don't hire people. Don't make friends with people just because they're diverse. It's absolute nonsense. My friends were all diverse. You know what? When I lived in New York City and I went out with my diverse friends, I remember many times looking over at the table next to me and it would be filled with 10 young, thin, blonde women. I never saw large groups of women with mixed color hair where one was blonde and one was brunette. Did not see that. There's people that believe in conformity. When I lived in New York, conformity is not diversity. In Japan, if you don't have black hair, they will fire you from your job. There are Japanese people who do not have black hair. Some Japanese people have brown hair and they cannot get a job in Japan. Research out on the internet and read what people have to say. This is believed because Japanese people believe that it's unprofessional to not have black hair. That's what they believe. It's a belief. So when I was younger, we were taught in religious school that Muslims would kill Christians. The Quran does say to kill Christians. Muhammad absolutely said it. He said, yeah, kill them. He predicted that there would be a war between the Muslims and maybe the Jews and the Christians, and he said that the Muslims would actually lose the war. But that was one of the things that he prophesized, and he did say to kill people of other religions. It's something that I'm pretty sure he said, if I'm wrong, correct me, I don't care. When I was younger, we were taught that Muslims want to kill Christians. And I'm not the type of person who believed everything that I heard. And I went to Sunday school. I went to a religious Sunday school. And I never hated Muslims, but I was wary of Muslims. Like, for example, when I was in college, to get a roommate, sometimes you would go visit someone. You'd see an ad somewhere looking for a roommate, and you go visit him on campus. In this particular case, I went to his room. He was an Iranian guy, and he was pretty cool. He was a cool guy, and I'm not intimidated because he's Iranian, but because he's a very different person than I'm the nerdy computer guy. You know, he was the cool jock guy. So that was intimidating, but when he said he was Iranian, that makes it a little bit more intimidating. And I did go on a date with a woman on 9/11 with an Iranian woman, and it was intimidating. She told me she was Persian, and I was like, okay, she's an Iranian, you know? And it's intimidating because it was a culture that I had no knowledge of. She might not have been Muslim, I don't know. Maybe she could very well have been Christian. But I never had a hatred towards Muslims. And when 9/11 happened, everybody in the United States said negative things about Muslims. And living in New York City, you are around diverse people. There's fewer white people than there are people of other ethnicities. And a lot of people that drive taxis are Muslim. Arabs, Muslims, India, Pakistan. These are the people driving taxis. I understand in California, there are people from China who might be driving taxis, or in Australia, not so in New York City. So I was always around foreigners, and they had weird names, and they wore headdresses. And like I said, my aunts and my grandmother wore headscarves, so don't tell me that I'm an anti-headscarf or anything like that. I always was a polite person, but I always also I'm a friendly person. I make friends with everybody. And I'm the type of person, if one of these guys said to me, hey, I'm Arab, I'm a taxi driver, I don't have any friends, I just came to the city, you seem like a friendly guy, do you mind if we go out and get a drink or something and just talk for half an hour? You know, and I'm single and I want to meet people and stuff like that. I would have said, yeah, let's do it. I have no anti-social beliefs with Muslims or anybody diverse. Okay, there's some people that freak me out. But it's not because of their ethnicity. It's because of the way that I don't like the people who have so much jewelry on their face when it's in the nose, because I feel the pain, and the lips. To me, I feel the pain in my body, and I don't want to see it. And I don't like people with too many tattoos. You know, it's my personal preference. So New York City is one of the most diverse cities in the world, and there are problems with diversity because you have language diversity. I remember when I went to El Paso, Texas, this was before I knew Spanish, went to a Wendy's restaurant, and the woman only spoke Spanish. And she spoke to me in Spanish, and I said what I wanted, and she didn't understand what I was saying. And it wasn't a bad experience. It was really cute. I was like, she really impressed me by the way she reacted, because she was like, oh, you know, she laughed about it. That's why I thought it was cute, because I said something in English, she didn't understand it, she laughed about it. It was a good experience with this Spanish woman, and I managed to get my order, and everybody was Spanish. I drove across the United States, and people are diverse, even white people. In every state that I went to, people spoke with a different accent, had different beliefs. For example, the more you go south, the more people love their trucks. And it's not just men. Women also like trucks disproportionately more than in some place like New York. And there's different foods that people like. I had a friend who moved to Texas, and he preached to me about cowboy boots. No interest in cowboy boots. People are diverse in this country. The one thing that I noticed is that there was no diversity every time I stopped to put gas in the tank, because everyone that worked at the gas station was from India, and they all spoke exactly the same. They all had the same Indian accent. And I remember a story where I was in Spain, and I was lost, and I am handicapped. So don't tell me that I hate handicapped people. And I walk with crutches. And I was in Spain, and I couldn't find my hotel, and I got sick and tired of walking around. It was on a road that was kind of right there, but it was not like a main road. It was a weird angle, and you couldn't see the sign, and you had to go a block down before you get to my road, and my hotel was right there. And I was walking all over the place, and I said, I've been here like 2 times already. And I walked by a place, and I said, okay, these guys are from India. Walked in, said, do you speak English? You know, they pretend they don't. Just like speaking to someone from India in the United States. And they didn't help me at all. But luckily, I was able to find my hotel in the shortest distance once I left the place. But I also said to myself, cool, now I know a place that I can come back when I want to chit-chat with some cool guys. These were older guys. They weren't young guys. They were just a bunch of older Indian guys. I love people from India. So diversity is a choice that you need to make. But if you're doing it to fulfill your ego, I think that's a mistake. And if you're doing it to conform, I think that's a mistake. Women say they want to feel special, yet they insist on conformity. Do you see the irony in that? Don't do something because the media tells you to do. The media is garbage. It's fake news, and I've known it since before Trump said it. Because I would read news stories and I would say, the title says one thing and the story says something else. I said, this is fake. And I stopped reading the news. Okay. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.